9 o'clock Eastern time. Here are the polls closing, all in gold. There's the list to the right. Let's go outside and begin this thing. Here are the states we are watching at 9 Eastern. It's a long list. Get ready. Michigan, too close to call. Arizona, too early to call. 11 electoral votes. Wisconsin, too early to call. Colorado, too early to call. Texas has been awarded to Donald Trump. Texas stays red, as does Kansas. No wobble there. Sportsman Paradise, Louisiana, 8 electoral votes projected to Donald Trump. Nebraska projected to Donald Trump. The state of New York reliably blue, and its 29 electoral votes stays with Hillary Clinton. North Dakota, Trump. To go with it, South Dakota, Trump. In the Rockies, Wyoming, 3 electoral votes, Trump. Minnesota, too close to call at this hour. New Mexico, and this was fascinating to see the action out there. Too early, Clinton leading. Let's look at our bar graph and look at the only numbers that really matter tonight, and that is the race to 270. And right now, Donald Trump is leading that 137 to 104.
Donald Trump more than halfway there to 270 if he is going to hit 270.
So here's what we're looking at in terms of battlegrounds. Florida, too close. Ohio, too close to call. Georgia, one of the early closes, too close to call. North Carolina, a genuine battleground. I'm sorry, Georgia, too close to call. New Hampshire, too close to call. Virginia, too close to call. Missouri, too early to call. And Maine, too early to call. Clinton ahead.
Interesting. We've only got about 4% of the vote in Missouri and in Maine. That gives you a hint as to why those are too early to call. But the call is not early. It's close in Pennsylvania, New Hampshire, Florida, North Carolina, Virginia, Ohio, Georgia. A lot of uncertainty right now. And Trump really locking up the traditional red states. The Democratic pipe dream that Texas will someday go purple, if not blue, that pipe dream stays in the pipe for another cycle.
There is the red wall.
Look at the contiguity. The
contiguousness
of the Republican support in the Electoral College, all except for that one South Carolina, all connected.
That is the red wall of the GOP from north to south and almost from east to west. We're waiting for the Western time zones, obviously. Yeah. Back inside here in the studio, we have a Senate call to make, and we have 2 people here at the desk who know and work for this guy. John McCain, who had a primary challenge, who will be 86 years old at the end of his new 6-year Senate term, has been reelected to the Senate. Steve Schmidt, Nicole Wallace. Steve, you first.
Well, I think thrilled about it. Great news. I remember when you talk about John McCain being 86 years old, I think his mom just turned 105.
Yeah.
He might.
And she's kicking, too. She's still got a good life.
Oh, absolutely. And I have no doubt he's still going to be going strong, into his 90s. But look, he's an important voice on national security issues in the country. He's someone, when we look at the vileness of this campaign, his life story, his commitment to country, we could use a couple John McCains in the United States Senate. So it's great to see him heading.
No matter your definition of hero?
Yeah.
I mean, that was a remarkable thing. That was last summer, summer 2015, when Donald Trump came out and basically criticized John McCain for having been captured and held prisoner during Vietnam. And John McCain did not respond at the time, and he ultimately held his endorsement for a long time, gave it to Donald Trump. He withdrew it at the end after some concern about some other Trump comments, but McCain refused to make that about himself. He made that a comment that reflect on Donald Trump. He refused to get engaged in that. And I just thought that was a moment that was I mean, he's had a lot of tests in his life, but what a test for him.
And this wasn't the surrender of Singapore. This guy was shot down over the enemy capital and landed in a lake, and had people come out, swim out, and beat him up.
John McCain's heroism isn't something for Donald Trump to give or to take away. He endured things that are really, frankly, beyond the comprehension of, people to even think about, and he's a true hero of this country.
And it's interesting. We thought he'd have a tough race here, but this is a poll closing call for him in Arizona.
And we talked about one of the laboratories of the night, how different Senate Republicans were going to deal with the Trump question. John McCain dealt with it interestingly. That even when he came under direct attack from Donald Trump, he, as you said, didn't make it about himself. He kept that endorsement. He was one, like Senator Portman and Senator Ayotte, who withdrew their support after the Access Hollywood tape came out, finding those comments just a bridge too far. And then he announced at his debate, I think we covered it live, right, when he said he would write in his friend Lindsey Graham. So we now have people who have won, with all different approaches to the Trump question.
Yeah, Lindsey Graham will be going back to the Senate. Of course, he wasn't up in this cycle. I do believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that Lindsey Graham announced today that he was voting for Evan McMullin.
Yes.
For president. So, I mean, there will be, if it is President Trump, he's going to have an interesting relationship with the members of his own
party.
Right,
and I think there are about six members of the Never Trump caucus. Mike Lee never endorsed him. Jeff Flake never endorsed him. It looks like Senator Kirk won't be there, but there were a lot of Republicans who never came around.
Yeah.
You guys want numbers?
I want numbers.
I have new numbers. Steve Kornacki has new numbers at the board. Steve?
Yeah, North Carolina, we've been watching this move all night. And again, remember about an hour ago, we were looking at a 6-point Clinton lead here. Donald Trump now, take a look at the popular vote coming in North Carolina. He has grabbed a lead here of about 7,000 votes in North Carolina. Again, what is happening is a lot of these small counties, these small red counties, are trickling in with big numbers for Donald Trump and big turnout. So he continues to make progress. What's left on the map, and for Democrats in terms of Hillary Clinton trying to erase this deficit, we keep showing you Mecklenburg County, largest in the state. This is Charlotte. What you're looking at here continues to be, this is the early vote. We do not know, we have not yet seen the same day vote. We don't know what size that is exactly. We do know that this county in 2012 went for Barack Obama with 61% of the votes. So you're seeing Hillary Clinton get 66 in the early vote. The question is, how much of the same day vote will she get? How many votes will be cast there? Because again, she's now operating as the vote comes in, and you can see it's updated again. She's now operating from a 14,000 vote deficit there. Quickly, I can also show you what is going on in Virginia. The margin, 102,000 votes for Donald Trump. The story here, though, continues to be, we talked about it earlier, those suburbs of Washington, D.C., heavily populated, very Democratic. Let me show you a couple of these and what we can see in terms of the results right now. Take a look at Fairfax. This is sort of the granddaddy of them all up there in Northern Virginia. You have a lead right now for Hillary Clinton of 56,000 votes. I can tell you 4 years ago, the margin here, I could have told you that a minute ago. She can still expect to get she could still get votes out of here, probably about 20,000 more in terms of a margin. So she can collect some. She can collect some out of Fairfax. She can collect some out of Arlington. It looks like she can collect some. Yes, Prince William County. There's still about probably 15,000 she could get here, and also there is still vote out in Richmond. So Richmond, Northern Virginia. There's still certainly a path for Hillary Clinton in Virginia to overcome that lead now of 103,000 votes for Donald Trump. But again, as we've said in all these other states, as that heavily Democratic vote comes in, there's also, well, it's pretty much filled in here. So there's also some vote from these Republican counties, though, that's still trickling in. So that could offset what she's picking up there.
Steve Kornacki at the board, Steve Schmidt, Nicole Wallace. What do you make of it?
It's going to be a long night, and I think that some of us, myself included, were harshly critical of his sort of idea about a last-minute path that would include one of those Michigan, Minnesota. But if it turns out that he sweeps these battleground states, that certainly holds the key for him to flip a Michigan or a Minnesota.
And Michigan and Minnesota are not too early to call. They're both too close to call right now.
Yeah. Look, there's no question that they're nervously optimistic at Trump Tower, and you have a lot of sweat on the brow at Clinton campaign headquarters right now. This was not what they were expecting. They were expecting, I think, a pretty early night, but they're looking at leads in these states that are pretty substantial, for Trump, with a lot of vote coming in.
Howard Feynman has been talking to the Clinton camp here in New York and let us know that he has some reporting on that front. Howard?
Yeah, Brian, earlier today and just a few hours ago, the Clinton people were saying that They expected to win Florida by 5 points. That was the internal talk. That's obviously not happening. And, you know, my role at HuffPost is to cover politics, but also to help run our international editions. We have 16 of them. And around the world, people have been looking at us in America and saying, is this Brexit? Is this Brexit again? That is the British vote that surprised everybody in the establishment in the UK about leaving the EU. And you've got to say, based on what we've seen so far, that this is a gigantic shout from non-global America, non-globalist America, to use that term, of no. They're saying no. And Donald Trump, whether he wins or loses, accurately channeled that anger and that giant shout of no about the global economy, about the knowledge economy and so forth. And Florida is a way you're seeing it. And the fact that Virginia is as close as it is right now is not a good sign for the Clinton camp.
Howard Feynman here in New York. Thank you for that. Lawrence O'Donnell standing by with James Carville. Lawrence?
I'm with James Carville and Michael Steele. James Carville, what is the Clinton camp worried about most right now looking at this board?
Well, Florida is a concern. If we lose Virginia, we'll probably lose the election. Or be close to it. I mean, I'd say right now I was expecting to be in a better mood at this point than I am right now. I'll be honest with you. Look, there's a lot left to count, and you know, not anything like that. But I fully expected that we would be better off than we are right now.
Michael Steele, the Republican states coming in the way they were supposed to come in. Texas, which actually had an hour or two of suspense tonight.
I've never understood that one. But okay, we'll play along with that one.
Okay. But here we are now. It's down to the battlegrounds.
Yeah, it is. And you're looking at what's happening in Michigan. You're looking at North Carolina, Virginia, and certainly, as James said, Florida. The fact of the matter is, and a number of folks have touched on it tonight, there was an expectation that the Hispanic vote was going to outperform and do this voodoo, and they did it well. But what people continue to underestimate in this election is that white vote, that vote that is not hunkered down in the cities, that is outlining those cities, that's out in the rural and the suburban areas. Trump knew they were there. He went out there, he found them. There's a reason and a methodology to the madness of the campaign in terms of that. So it's paying dividends for him at the moment.
Yeah, one of the things I caution here is in Broward, I'm told that it is just the early vote that's in. And the same thing in that's Fort Lauderdale. In Mecklenburg, in North Carolina, which is Charlotte, we just mentioned that it was just the early vote in. Now, I have no idea of how much is in, but there's got to be a lot of votes out there some way. The same thing in Fairfax. I don't know how much is left, so I want to be sort of cautious here, and not say this thing can get
right. Yeah, and I agree with that. But you have to. The caution is also muted a little bit by the fact that you still have a lot of Republican vote in Florida, in the Panhandle especially, that's going to offset, that's going to eat into her ability to hit that 116,000 difference that he has right now.
If in fact what I'm looking at and said 15% in Broward, then I could see her still catching up. But I'm not sure of the figures I'm getting with early. Sure. Was not.
Sure.
Brian, back to you.
All right, Lawrence O'Donnell with our insiders.
Yeah, can we put up the Florida board again at this point? We're just watching these numbers trickle in. We were just talking about that. Right now, there's 93% of the vote there. You see Donald Trump with a more than 100,000 vote lead. We talked about this a little bit earlier on, not just in terms of which way Florida is going to go, but what that says about the presidency. A lot of people have felt coming into this that Hillary Clinton would love to win Florida, but she doesn't have to win Florida. Donald Trump has to win Florida. If he doesn't, he is almost precluded in realistic terms from getting there. Once he's got it, though, I don't know how narrow a path we're talking about for Clinton. I mean, she doesn't need it, but if she doesn't have it, how much harder is it going to be for her to get there? That's one of the things that I think everybody's got in mind, looking toward that Florida number. We're getting to 93% now. I think Steve actually has a little bit more to explain to us about what's coming in.
Well, didn't James Carville just make news too with Virginia?
I thought he did.
You're going to go. I mean, I feel like headlines are being written off what James Carville just said about Virginia.
He said if we lose Virginia, we're losing the election.
There's a lot we're seeing looking at this map tonight in Florida and other states that I don't think anybody in politics expected they'd be seeing tonight. Let me take you through Florida and what's left of the vote and what we can tell you about that. So the gap for Hillary Clinton right now is 132,000 votes in Florida. She needs to make up against this stupid thing. Okay, 132,000 1,000 votes. She needs to make up 132,000 votes. Now, you just heard talking about Broward County, big population center, big Democratic county. There is still vote out in Broward especially. Let me show you, though. This looks like the early vote that's in. We say, well, only the early vote is in. Here's the problem, though. The total vote for Democrats, the problem is that the total vote in this county in 2012 was about 750,000. So you can do the math. Yeah, there is same-day vote out, but same-day vote isn't what it used to be. Most of the vote is early vote. Now, we don't know exactly what the turnout's going to be today. They could shatter what they saw in 2012. They could squeeze even more out of it. But you see, most of the vote is in there. So Hillary Clinton clearly running at a clip like that, 69% or so, give or take, is going to make up a lot of ground. There is also, though, outstanding vote in Republican areas. I think, if I'm seeing this right, the biggest area in the state, the biggest Republican area in the state where there's still outstanding vote is right here, Marion County. And you see Donald Trump's over 60% right here. So gains the Democrats make in that same day vote in Broward will be offset partially by gains Donald Trump makes up here. There is still, I think I can show you this right here. Yes, Santa Rosa County, there's also outstanding vote here, it appears. And again, look, Donald Trump's getting 3/4 of the vote there. So he will offset some of the gains Clinton makes in Broward, some of the gains in Palm Beach, in Miami-Dade. So overall, when you're looking right now, let's see if it's changed since I started talking, you're looking at a gap of 148,000 votes there. Look, that gap's going up just as I'm talking for Hillary Clinton. There are some big Democratic areas there. There is a question of how much the turnout was in terms of same-day voting in those counties, but the math is complicated. There are Republican areas, too.
All right, Steve Kornacki at the board. Maria Teresa Kumar, the CEO of Voto Latino, is here with us in our newsroom. Maria, the Clinton campaign has been pointing